I wish to talk about the need for ecological conservation of Termitomyces mushrooms on basis of news items like this and photographs which are appearing these days. Today is 10 July 2015. I am sitting here in my laboratory here, where you can see here the collection of Termitomyces species. We can also consume them, but we are studying, we are creating new knowledge, and we are actually working to understand the science, the ecology, biology, taxonomy, diversity of these species to create new knowledge so that these very valuable resources of Earth could last forever and could be used sustainably in future. The point is that this type of news item published in local Marathi newspapers, where it shows that Arambi Hazarala 100, it only shows a new market economy which is still being developed in Goa at the cost of these wild resources. Now this is not possible to cultivate by using any known science and technology. The question is, how do we ensure, because the news item says that so the mushrooms this year have become so expensive that the prices have shot up, and still people are collecting the young stages like this. At this stage they are bringing, this is not correct and that is not correct. But the question is, why collect them at all? Because now I am going to shed some light on why there is fascination, why there is interest in collection of these stages, and what is the tradition involved in the fascination and obsession of the local people, the Goan people, with these wild edible Termitomyces mushrooms. One of the reasons is at hunter-gatherer stage of human cultural evolution, whatever that we know from published literature and also from local traditions among the tribals as well as non-tribals, that all over the world there is a tradition of consumption of wild edible fungi. Mushrooms of this genus Termitomyces are wild edible mushrooms. So in the process of discovery of various edible food items, thousands of years back, people came across these species which were growing on termite mounds. They tasted them, they survived, they liked them, they decided that yes, this is a new important nutritious food resource. They liked it, they liked the taste, they liked the texture, they liked the flavor, and they got addicted to it. So now what happens is, such type of knowledge passes from generation to generation, and now those who collect these mushrooms and bring them in market and all, they are habituated to go to the familiar location every year and then collect the species and market them in a big number and make some money. But they have hardly any knowledge of its ecology, its biology, its fruiting cycle, its phenology and its diversity and the pressure on the resources. So these are the 8 stages which are highly desired. I believe that stages smaller than this are being sold this year 2015 season for not less than 10 to 12 rupees each. Now this is hardly, this weighs, I can say that less than 5 grams. With 90% water content, it will have only 500 milligrams of edible material. So if people in Goa are ready to pay 20 to 25 rupees per gram of certain edible this one, they should rather go for cultivated button mushrooms, because same amount of nutrition is there and these button mushrooms are readily available in the market during all the seasons in Goa, and if they do it, pressure on these resources will be less. But why then the exploitation continues? The exploitation continues because as per Convention on Biological Diversity of United Nations and as per Biodiversity Act 2002 of Government of India and as per the rules made by Goa State Biodiversity Board, right now there is no declared ban on these species outside the wildlife sanctuaries. In 1991-92, I attempted to educate the Forest Department and communicate to them the findings of my research, that from a diversity which I saw in the market of 14 species of Termitomyces, today we have 4 to 5 species which come into the market. And taking advantage of this, the high price that people who sell mushroom get in Goa, we see that in the month of July and August, from Savantwadi, from Belgaum, from Khanapur and from Karwar and other surrounding states where there is not good market for these mushrooms, because the purchasing power of the people in Karnataka and Maharashtra is less than state of Goa, bagfuls, sackfuls of these mushrooms are exploited from Savantwadi, Khanapur, Karwar, Supa, Hallar, Dandeli and these regions, and this is being dumped in Goa at a phenomenal price. So if this pressure on wild mushroom resource exploitation continues across and along the Western Ghats states of Goa, Maharashtra and Karnataka, our fear as experts on mushroom biodiversity, mushroom ecology and mushroom biology, and specifically on genus Termitomyces, which has a rich gene pool in Western Ghats. During last 28 years, I documented 35 species of Termitomyces mushrooms in Goa. My research student, Ms. Rosie D'Souza, is working on various interesting scientific, biochemical and biotechnological aspects of these mushrooms. And many new research projects are possible provided we conserve these species in nature and not in this manner where we can tell the world that this is the price that these mushrooms get. Because these mushrooms are resources for knowledge. These mushrooms are resources, these developmental stages. We are not going to sacrifice these for consumption but for systematic study of their tissue structure, their chemistry, their full biology. That is what developmental biology, that is what we are going to expect. So on one side, as you can see from this news, which proclaims that mushrooms are available in this market and so much price is paid. On the other side, we have our scientific intellectual compulsions in studying these species. So the people will have to decide. Students, teachers will have to decide. Village panchayats, municipalities have to decide. Our ministers, MLAs will have to decide. Our journalists, media people will have to decide. Members of our scientific community, biologists will have to decide on which side they stand. On this side, where mushrooms are marketed, when we cannot cultivate them, if that is the case, why ban turtles? Why ban catching and killing of frogs? Because if you have intellectual investment in protection of tigers, if you want to conserve the eggs of Oliver Ridley turtles, if you have banned catching and killing of frogs, then what about these Termitomyces mushrooms? You cannot cultivate them artificially. It will take a lot of time till we discover the secret of their artificial cultivation. So if that is the case, under what compulsion people are going to their habitats and depriving the termites which cultivate these species, it is their food, leave it in nature. Because if you look at this news, people will obviously ask you, if we do not collect these mushrooms, then they will grow like this. I have encountered many people who challenge me saying, Arey, if these mushrooms grow to this species, this stage, they will decompose and will be wasted in nature. But they perhaps do not understand that you can apply the same logic to Oliver Ridley turtles or frogs and can say that if you do not catch and kill and eat the frogs, they will be wasted in nature. If you do not eat the turtle eggs laid by in the various beaches of Goa, they will be wasted. But do we realize that if the eggs are hatched, the turtles go back to the sea? Do we realize that if the frogs are not killed and are protected in nature, then they can spawn the eggs and more frogs will be there to catch and kill insects and control mosquito-borne illnesses? Aren't we really disturbing and interfering in the natural food web? Do we know anything about the life cycle of this and its use in the ecosystem by the termites? Because it has been known that hundreds of kilograms, it is estimated that up to 300 kilogram of forest leaf litter is consumed by the termites in every mound by converting to fungus comb. And it is this mushroom which helps the recycling of the forest litter. So if we do not allow these mushrooms to grow to this stage, the spores which are released from this area which fall on the termite mound, we will be depriving the termite workers the seed. It is like depriving the farmers their seed. If farmers, if we go to their farms and if we tell them that don't leave any seed for yourself, give us everything, the farmers will say that if you are going to eat everything, then next year how will you sow? How will we sow our farms? How will you cultivate our farms? Same logic is applicable to these mushrooms in nature. First, this is food for many species in the forest and ecosystem. By removing them, almost all of this, you are depriving all the species of their natural food. One. Secondly, whichever mushrooms are left after these other species consume them, that is where the termites collect the basilospores and then they inoculate the fungus garden to restart a new cycle. So we cannot interfere in this. Sustainable exploitation is possible. There is only one way. Earlier, all those people in the forest, before Goa's liberation, very few people used to bring these mushrooms to the market, city markets. They used to consume themselves. In Khotigaon sanctuary, that was the practice. In Molem sanctuary area, that was the practice. In entire Sattari, that was the practice. Very few of these mushrooms used to be packed and brought to Sakhri or Disoli market. But today we see that there is a lot of greed which has encouraged people to exploit these mushrooms at this stage, at this immature stage, and destroy these resources in nature. So there is a wide appeal I am making, a very sincere and honest appeal I am making, consistent with international culture of protection of such vulnerable species which we cannot artificially cultivate or domesticate. It is everybody's duty in Goa to see to it that Termitomyces resources are left to nature and we do not interfere in their ecosystem, and we allow all the mushrooms to grow to this stage, and we do not worry that they are going to be wasted. It is a wrong idea. They have right to exist and to discharge the basilospores, and it is our duty to take care of eco-conservation of the Termitomyces diversity and gene pool in Goa. In Goa University, in our mycological laboratory, people may not be perhaps aware that we are doing consistent and systematic work on this genus. This is one of the few labs in the world which has been doing this, recording this faithfully for posterity, and all this that we are recording is for public education, for community education, for education of our students and teachers in rural areas where they can see the local mushrooms being brought into the market. It is a message for them that they should not waste these resources but educate all those who are addicted to the consumption of this, and see to it that only sustainable exploitation, that is okay. In forest areas, if people are plucking up some mushrooms and consuming themselves, we have no problem with that. That if you see a mushroom mound with 100 species, take 10 and leave 90, take 20 and leave 80, that is okay. But suppose you see 100 mushrooms of this stage or this stage coming out from a mound, and if you take 95 out of it, you are actually destroying the ecosystem. So our appeal is, please follow the ancestors who didn't destroy the resources. That's why these mushrooms are still there, intact in the mounds of Goa, wherever these mounds are encountered, and see to it that you permit only sustainable exploitation and not a market economy based on this. Now if you look at this, each mushroom, if it costs 10 rupees, then I can tell you in this season, people will literally make crores of rupees by selling these species. But what is there for science? What they will give back to the nature? That is a question which these people will have to answer. If they think that they can be rich by exploiting the nature, tomorrow there will be a crisis in our Termitomyces based ecosystems. Our forest will be not properly maintained. There will be lots of new diseases coming out of the forest and attacking the humans in the surrounding areas. And we can also ensure that if we have got Kaisnur monkey fever in places like Sattari, it is because of human interference in forest ecosystem and practices like this. And if we continue to exploit mushroom resources from forests like this, there is a full guarantee that new viral diseases, new zoonotic diseases, new bacterial diseases will come out with vengeance from the forest of Goa and will start attacking people. And they will then suddenly realize that because we interfered, we removed all the mushrooms and we destroyed the ecological balance, that this is happening. But by that time it may be too late. So a wide appeal to everyone that this is important to understand. This is important to understand. This is important for science to understand. If we read this please see to it that you also know about this, its life cycle and its role in nature.